Oda made some pretty interesting choices in this chapter, and by interesting, I mean things that kind of make you go like, wait, what? So in the cover page, we have Fishman Island, we see Shirahoshi, and I think the only interesting part about that is that it means that the reverie hasn't started yet because Shirahoshi is supposed to be at the reverie. Now, in terms of the interesting choices that I mentioned, one of the first ones is the fact that this chapter's title is 1 and 2, but we don't really get to see Sanji's brothers until the very end, and even then, they're very obscured. Like, there's just a shot of their face, but we don't get like an introduction like we got with Yonji or Reiju, right? Like, we don't get a little character box that says first and second son of the Vinsmoke family. We don't get their color. We don't even get their names, which I assume are, you know, Ichi or Niji or whatever. You know, just following a sequence. But we don't even get that. So that's a little bit, like, what's so special about these last 2 Vinsmokes that Oda wants to keep it a secret, you know? Because they were just busy finishing up a war in Broccoli Island, which, first of all, I want to know who they were fighting. Because usually, if a war takes you 2 years to finish off, that kind of says something about your, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm just being like, I'm jumping the gun here. But I would assume that if it takes you 2 years to finish a war, that kind of says something about your power level. But then again, we don't really know who they were fighting, so I really don't want to make assumptions about that just yet. Anyway, this chapter, if you look at this chapter as a whole, it's basically a big chunk of exposition with some comedy spliced in between, and, you know, that final scene with the Vinsmokes. And all in all, I really think that this chapter should have been called Pudding, because this chapter really is more about her than anyone else. You find out more about how incredibly massive Big Mom's bloodline is. It's crazy. Brooke asks Pudding, hey, is it true that, you know, she actually has 35 daughters? Pudding says, no, we're actually 39, plus 46 sons. So that's 85 kids total. This also means that there are 4 daughters that are technically younger than Pudding, right? So you have 39 plus 46, that's 85, plus 43 husbands, that's 128, plus Big Mom, 129 total. That is crazy, right? That is insane. So the nickname Big Mom for Charlotte Linlin is definitely, it's not a myth. It's not a myth. Now, there were some people, myself included, that we were in denial about the fact that there would be one dude, let alone 43 dudes, that would want to have intercourse with Big Mom. But it turns out there must be some thirsty-ass motherfuckers in the world of One Piece that are, you know, they just want to have some affiliation with a Yonko, or maybe they're just even uglier than Big Mom. Maybe even grosser, more disgusting than she is. 43 dudes! I guess the true message of the story, then, is that no matter how unattractive you may feel, don't worry, you'll find somebody. Because there's just too many people out there just wanting to have sex with something that has legs. Oh, and by the way, the 129, all right, that's not even including her grandkids, because believe it or not, she does have grandkids. So technically, she should be called Big Grandma. And then Pudding says something pretty interesting. She says, one of my dearly beloved sisters left home in search of a free, independent love. A journey in search of a groom. And then we cut to Nami, who's obviously thinking, who do I know? Who have I met throughout my journey that is constantly wanting to get married to somebody? Could it be the person that gave me a Vivre card to Big Mom? So I definitely think she's talking about Lola in that one panel. And if Lola was able to, like, leave in search of a dream, if she was able to say, hey, I want to be independent and I want to find my own love, and she's still being recognized as a daughter, I really don't see any reason for why Bonnie couldn't do the same. Like, maybe Bonnie had a different dream and she's like, hey, Mom, I have to go out to sea. And then later on, she just became a supernova. And I think Big Mom was probably like, all right, as long as you come back each time we have a wedding ceremony, you may do as you please, my daughters. Because seriously, like, there's too many people involved with the Big Mom family for there to be just 128 new characters. You really think? I think Oda is gonna pull from some of the characters that he's already created. There's just too many. I just think it would be a pretty good opportunity for Oda to be like, hey, remember that one guy that you met in this one arc? Well, it turns out he's related to Big Mom in some way, shape, or form. Also, I kind of noticed how Pedro was acting super violent in this chapter. I mean, that was another thing that was kind of like, wait, what? He's really thirsty for some violence. It's like, what the hell? Like, and he's the one who's supposed to keep Peckham's in check? By the way, Peckham's got kidnapped, or he left. He had some nasty diarrhea and left a note in the bathroom saying, "Turn back." There's different scenarios that could have happened here. Either maybe he just had a change of heart and is like, no, I have to apologize for Big Mom for what I did, and I'm gonna sort of like switch sides a little bit because these people, I've been with Big Mom longer than I have been with the Straw Hats. So F you, turn back. That's my warning. Or it could have been the Vinsmokes that came back to take him. Or it could have been Jinbei. Well, then I don't know why Jinbei would take Peckham's. But Jinbei could have been the one to write the letter, just turn back. Although technically I think Jinbei knows Luffy well enough to know that if you tell Luffy to turn back from any situation, that's basically telling Luffy, go on, full ahead. There's also something that Pudding says in this chapter that kind of confirms the theory that I saw all over the place last week. Basically, Pudding says that Big Mom is really excited about the wedding cake. So the theory pretty much states that this is kind of like Oda's version of Hansel and Gretel, right? So Hansel and Gretel, they follow a path to the witch's house. It's made out of candy. They start eating the candy, and then the witch tries to put them in the oven because she wants to cook them for herself. So according to this theory, the reason why Big Mom wants different races to come to her island is because she wants to make a big cake out of human flesh. And not just human flesh, but different races, so that she can eat them. Which kind of goes in line with what we saw in the previous chapter. We saw different subordinates of Big Mom gathering ingredients for a big cake, like fruit, flour, eggs, etc. Now, according to this translation, Pudding has already met Sanji, which is kind of weird that when, she thinks back to him, when we get that flashback, like he's in silhouette. But anyway, she really likes him. But the way that she describes him is kind of like she's kind of describing a bounty poster. He's like, yeah, his eyes are shaped like hearts, and he has black legs. And I'm like, what? So I was like, did you actually meet him? Because it sounds like you're just describing him from what somebody told you about him or what you've read about him. But anyway, then Carrot jumps in and hugs Pudding, and she's like, I like Sanji too. Oh, that was really funny. And then Pudding says that Sanji, believe it, like Sanji rejected a girl. And the expression on Nami, Chopper, and Luffy in that panel when they're like, oh, that was comedy gold. That was the funniest part of this chapter. Like, Oda even changed his art style for that one panel to emphasize how crazy that is. And Luffy starts crying about how loyal Sanji is. I mean, it just turns out that Sanji, yeah. And it makes sense. Like, it's not something that's, like, completely shocking, because otherwise he would have left the Straw Hats for some random girl. But it's like, damn, Sanji is totally dedicated. Like, everybody else in the crew, it's Straw Hat family first. Everything else comes second. And then Pudding just gives them a map to go to Whole Cake Island, which is a route that only the siblings know. So I'm pretty sure they might bump into some siblings as they follow that path. I think Oda was really smart about this, because I think he handled it in a way when he introduced Violet. He kind of said, hey guys, even though this has been a gag about, Sanji being a perv and just being really thirsty and never having his feelings be returned to him, like something's coming. And so he introduced Violet to get us used to that idea, and now with Pudding. Although Pudding, I have to be honest, she does seem a little bit too welcoming, a little bit too friendly, excessively friendly, which is a little bit suspicious, but I don't know, what do you think? Remember that comic strip that Vito was talking about? In that chapter, when he's talking about the comic, you do get to see like a very, very small version of 1 and 2 wearing those capes. But what do you think about the Vinsmokes, like right now? Specifically these two Vinsmokes, because it's like, okay, I don't really know much about them. Like, it's just like, I kind of wish Oda could have left this chapter, especially because there's no chapter next week. I would have really appreciated like a full body shot of the two of them with their color and their actual names, even though we can sort of assume what their names are. There's one part where number 1 says, I can't wait to see Sanji, and then number 2 says, liar. So I guess they kind of resent Sanji. I don't know if he hates Sanji, but that's interesting. I kind of want to know why they hate him. Because Reiju likes his brother. Yonji doesn't really like him. He's kind of annoyed at him, but I don't think he necessarily hates Sanji. There's this one part where number 1 says, he's about to get shot, and he says, wall, and one of his men stands in front of him, and he takes the bullets for him. And I don't think that's an ability, because if it is an ability, that's way too similar to Doflamingo's parasite ability. So that just may be the loyalty that, you know, their men have towards the Vinsmoke family. I don't know. It may be an ability, but who knows? Their designs look really badass, like really cool. And I think this kind of confirms that Killer is not a Vinsmoke, because this war has been going on for 2 years. So, but other than that, please let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Like the review if you did. I appreciate that. Luffy missed out on that amazing chocolate burger, but we'll see what happens. Not next week, but the week after that. Thank you guys. Bye.